it's approximately, what is it, $5,400, and that was for changes to plats that needed to be made based on homeowner requests, incorrect plats that needed to be updated, and then of course, once all that was done, proper plat submittal. So all that was stuff that had to happen before we could cut the process loose, and then that money will come from the project itself. So the money's already obligated towards the project. It would be in the contingency budget, but before we can cut those invoices loose, it would need to be approved by you guys. If there are any questions, I can go into it too. It's all that area by Mountain Ridge.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
the second one there, B, for the roundabout project, we ran into some unforeseen utility items that required more test fitting by the design engineer, who is Brutus Engineering, who is the state highway selected and approved engineer to do the design of the project. And in order to finish their design and send designs out to the other utility providers, so Verizon, Comcast, Columbia Gas, and Potomac Edison First Energy, they had to do some other test pits to locate exactly where those utilities were, and then move forward with the project. And that cost, I believe, came to $8,000. Keep going down. Yeah.
8817.
Yeah, and then there is a reduction, so that it comes to that, should be that 5,492 number. So that one again would be stuff that has to happen before we can finish design. That money, we're not 100% certain, so I don't want to promise it yet, but the money to pay for that should be ARC eligible, so that money's already been set aside. In the worst case, if ARC comes back and says that fund is not eligible to use for design, then we would have to come up with the funds for that. But we're fairly certain that it should be able to come from ARC funding. We're waiting to hear back on the confirmation for that. But again, there is, I believe, close to $3 million total for the project with the ARC funds. So in the instance that it is not covered under ARC, are we still okay with cutting that loose? I would just pull it out of we would just rearrange money from one of our other sewer funds or something.
It would be
like
the 5,492.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
a small portion of that.
Yeah, I think
total.
that's fine.
Is it like they weren't sure where like the
Correct.
electric lines, the gas lines were,
Correct.
anything else? Sewer lines?
Predominantly gas, actually, was this one. Just because Columbia Gas couldn't confirm whether the line was about 6 foot this way or 6 foot this way. So we had to come in and pinpoint it. And that's
But
not
on my street.
Yeah. And of course, you don't want to go digging into the ground with a machine before you know. And actually, a lot of the utility providers now require that you daylight it with a non-invasive and actually non-shovel related process, so like a back truck now. We don't require that yet, but it is something that we're getting closer and closer to. So. And then finally, the third one is, this one will be not a monetary change. It'll just be a slight contract change for the paving plan. We have spent a good bit of time looking through the end of First Street, and with all the rain we've gotten in the past 2 months since we've kind of decided on the contract, the end of First Street just keeps getting more and more beat up with drainage issues. And then we did do some manhole relocation in Pritchard Farms. So cumulatively, I don't have a number from the contractor yet. We're looking at about $15,000 to $18,000 worth of paving that would be a change order as an add-on for this contract to extend First Street and then do the remediation paving in Pritchard Farms. What I would like to do is just cut off one of the add alternates from the paving project. And that one would be the Glendenning paving. So just do away with the Glendenning add alternate and then do the rest of First Street and this Pritchard Farms paving remediation work.
So what end of First Street?
The end as you head from Barnard Street, so like where's the nearest? Across from the gas station, and then as you head towards McDonald's.
East.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had initially not intended to pave it, but we kind of did another assessment and figured it was worth it. So,
And to clarify, the Glendenning projects, we weren't going to get to all of them anyways. That was the last one on the list, so we won't get to much of any of it.
Yeah. So we won't go over our paving budget, we'll just kind of reallocate some funds, as long as
Okay.
everyone's okay with that.
I have no problem with that.
Cool, thank you.
All right, moving on then to item D, money-wise solutions.
This is pretty much just a formality. We adopted a 125 plan as part of our new insurance benefits, and we need to have it approved by the mayor and city council.
Okay.
So we just need to have a resolution.
This is just formalizing that.
Yep,
That's already been made.
we did the same thing in August last year.
Okay.
So
Very good.
that's it.
Hang on there. All right, moving on then to item 4 on the agenda, item 4A, the scoop.
Sure. So the scoop is going to be next Wednesday, August 20th. The scoop this will be the second year we've done it. Scoop is just an opportunity for the public to come and hear about some of the projects that are upcoming, some of the things we've completed, ask some questions, things like that. We will have the Frostburg Freeze there with some ice cream. That's the scoop. So come get a scoop and hear the scoop. Information's gone out about it. Thank you, Bethany, for kind of organizing all that. Basically, if you have any questions or concerns, stop by and join us. 7 p.m. at City Place. Doors open at 6:40.
Have you finalized what all is going to be covered?
No, we've
Still working on it?
Yeah. So if there's
There's a
anything-
lot, because there's
there's
a lot that could be said.
So if
Yes.
there's anything in particular any of the mayor commissioners would like to see, please let us know. We'll make sure it's included.
Okay. Back to Hayden then. Let's talk about GOPT.
Yep,
It's probably what people will want to know during the school.
Yes.
it should be gone by that point.
Close.
Yeah, it'll be, well, the rubble will still be there. I'm sure most of you have seen by now that all the windows are out of it and the inside is almost entirely empty. That's what they're finishing the rest of this week, is taking the rest of the skeleton out from the inside. The back of the building is completely off now. So all that's left is the brick superstructure that you can still see from the road. The plan is, we've already gone through the process with State Highway and with all of the other invested stakeholders, the neighbors above and below, that one day next week, we're looking at Tuesday, we are actually going to close that block of Main Street, detour traffic with State Highway's help and State Highway's signage. They like to be a part of that. And then we will bring in the big machine, probably overnight, Monday night actually, bring in the big machine, put it behind the building, and then that day we will take down the building and have the rubble pile there, and then it'll be super quick and then it'll be slow. The building will come down all at once. Well, over a couple hours.
Hopefully not all of them.
And then we will effectively pull the pile back and then take our time sorting the pile. We'll put the privacy fence up probably in the next 2 weeks, at least before cruising, and then give them the time to sort the pile and smooth everything out and make it look nice. But the actual demo itself will be pretty much one day next week, and we will close Main Street, and we will probably evacuate is not the right term for it because that incites fears, but we will probably pull out the Allstate Insurance Building. We'll have them not be there that day, and I had actually already talked to Joe Marsh about that as well, and he wants to do that himself. And then the building above, the Baker Babes building, Lowell Broadwater, he and I have a meeting tomorrow morning at 8 to go over what his plan is, but we will presumably pull his tenants out of that building.
I think she's on vacation.
Even better. Get all the cakes out of there first. But we will pull, he has some apartments up top. We'll pull those people out. And then go through the final separation process of getting his roof line off of the building. And then after that, it will start coming down. So.
You're going to charge people fees to watch from a safe distance.
The contractor has actually offered to hover his drone over it the whole time and put together a video for it.
I think that would
Very
be
good,
neat. I think that would be a neat thing.
Yeah, so he's going to do that.
Are there any steel beams or anything like that?
There is, and he's keeping them to resell and keep his costs.
That's
Yeah.
pretty penny.
Yeah, that's actually what they've spent almost the past 3 weeks taking everything out of the building that they can. One, for the sake of the demo, because if you have nothing on the inside, it gives us the opportunity to collapse it in, and then for him to recoup some of his costs. So.
Is he also taking whatever usable bricks there are, or?
Yeah, he actually intends to. He is of the mindset that he will take nearly all the brick.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be
More power
great.
to him.
Do you have an idea about how long the street's gonna be closed? I mean, is this an 8-hour thing?
We're
a 1-hour
limiting
thing?
it. The plan is best case scenario 8 hours, a standard working day. Now, in the instance that there's still some of the structure up that is unstable, we will leave that block of Main Street closed and work through the night if we have to get it down.
Okay,
So that way it's one period of the road being closed and we don't have to close, open, close, open.
got it, okay.
Part of it too is that the contractor, they'll be putting concrete jersey barriers and fencing on the opposite side of Main Street to protect the businesses across the street in case something comes off the building, shoots across the street, doesn't go through those windows.
So would pedestrian traffic on the other side still be open?
We're not sure.
Okay.
We haven't finalized that plan yet. We're thinking we're just actually going to divert it down the alley above LG's and around, just because we don't want to take the risk of having people over there during the demo.
Right.
But that's one thing State Highway and I are still kind of going back and forth on to see.
That's fine. We'll just need to notify the other, like Gene Harris and
Yeah.
those kind of folks that are right in there. We'll need to notify them.
This will be approximately when?
I think Tuesday. But no, but if we would rather push it back a day than
Yeah.
rush it. So we're thinking Tuesday, if not Wednesday or Thursday.
Oh, I had another question about this, and I can't think. Oh, I'll talk a little bit about what transpired on Thursday, just so it's on the record.
Yeah. So we went through the proper channels to line up a burn permit with the health department for clean material, for specifically brush and clean wood at the Appetit building. We held the permit at City Hall for the contractor to use, and then we coordinated with our police dispatch and our fire department to be on standby for the burn. And we let the contractor burn material there in order to keep landfill costs down. We did get, obviously, some pushback from the public. I think a lot of people were alarmed at it, thinking that it was just a contractor coming in and burning material, not knowing that it was, put together by us and managed by us and overseen by the fire department. It did end up saving us a pile of money. We probably saved $20,000 in landfill fees. So that was really nice. It was very helpful, but just from all the concerned calls from the public, we decided to shut it down. We have the burn permit through August if we would like to do more, but we just shut them down. It wasn't worth the concern from the public.
So about how many do you get calling?
I had 2 emails and probably 3 or 4 phone calls.
Yeah, I would say at least maybe 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
And were they mostly concerned about the fire itself, the danger of the fire, or?
They were concerned about what we were burning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
The smoke and the.
Yeah.
Because the complaint I got is that it smelled toxic.
Yeah.
But when I went by, it didn't smell toxic.
Yeah, I mean, I was there almost the whole day, and I was pretty adamant about what went in the pile because the permit's in my name. But I can understand people seeing a demolition going on and then seeing a fire going
Giant
on.
plume of black smoke and
Yeah.
thinking.
It wasn't even a giant plume of black smoke, really. I mean, it was pretty clean
Yeah.
fire, but it was a huge fire. That kind of.
Yeah, that's why we had the fire hydrant there and keep wetting everything down. So
I think part of it was too that the smoke seemed to settle in the neighborhood a little bit more than we were expecting. There
that
wasn't
could
much of
be,
a
yeah.
breeze, and
it was a huge day too.
yeah, so I think that added to it.
Yeah. So I let them finish burning for that day, and then I just said, hey, we'll cut
So
it
you
off.
didn't even do it on Monday then?
No, we ended it on Thursday.
But there's not a whole lot of stuff left.
No,
Yeah.
for the most part, the building on the inside is empty. And then the only thing left that we could feasibly burn would be, there's about 1 roof line on the back of the building that we haven't pulled off yet because it's still connected to Lowell's building. But that'll accumulate to 1 truckload of material at the landfill. So,
All right. Pressing on. Next, goes from bad to worse. Lions Park.
Yeah.
So I meet with we have not touched it. We took our valuables out of the building. So the refrigerators, the microwaves, really anything in there electronic since the roof is open. We took everything out. We put it into a different building.
The big Pepsi cooler.
Yep. But everything else has not been touched. We have not touched the tree. We have not touched the building. The only thing we did was pull the power out.
So for those of you that don't know, a giant tree fell in the concession stand.
Poor Emily, she's been going back and forth with the insurance company to finally get them to send an adjuster out here. So I am meeting with the adjuster next Wednesday to basically
Next Wednesday. Man, it's taking them so long.
I don't like to speculate, but what they keep trying to get me to do is get a cost estimate from a contractor to do the work. I think they want us to put out a number first before they will say how much they will insure everything for. So I am waiting until they give me a number, because I want them to cover the costs of removing the tree, because that's going to be a $4,000 tree removal. And then a demolition for the existing structure because it's not usable, and then a cost for rebuilding it. And that's what I meet with him on Wednesday to go over all that. Talked to him on the phone this morning. So we'll go over that. We'll go through that process, see how much they're willing to pay out on the building itself, and then we will we'll get with the contractor to do tree removal demo, and then we'll probably have our guys reconstruct, depending on the situation.
Cross your fingers.
Next thing is item 4D. I was hoping that either Chief or Lieutenant Seitz or somebody would be here for discussion of cruising Main Street. I just wanted to make sure it's on everybody's radar, that especially like the police department, that they're ready to go for.
Yeah, we're gonna have a couple extra policemen out
Uh-huh.
to do some patrol and on the Main Street area. And basically, it runs itself.
Yeah.
Once it gets started, they've been doing it so many years that it's down pat. But yeah, we're gonna have extra people out. The sheriff's office is gonna have a couple of people come up, and the state police will have a couple of policemen just to monitor that we don't have any problems.
Yeah. And we're pretty confident that the sidewalk will be open by that time.
Well, the big thing with that in there is having to have those cones out.
Yeah.
You have to redirect even a little differently to get the cars up, so if that's all gone.
Right. Then they can, and that's where they like to put those diagonal spaces anyway, so they're already going to shift traffic. Right
Yeah,
there.
on the other, yeah.
Yeah, the contractor's major driving timeline is cruising Main Street.
Okay.
They know about it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The only other thing is, everybody got an email, I'm sure much to your chagrin, that I had a meeting with President Smith at FSU, and we decided that we're going to shoehorn FSU homecoming into what we do in the fall. So October the 2nd, I think, was that the date we
It's
chose?
Thursday, yeah.
So we're going to have a parade. We're going to have 2 parades in October.
That'll be cool.
There's something I wanted to raise, which was when would be a good time to issue an RFP for a company to run the EV charging?
For like the microgrid?
Well, it would be the AV charging is part of the microgrid, but once it's up and installed, somebody needs to actually run, make sure that, first of all, that it's kept up, that there's no downtime, and how it will be monetized according to, however we prefer it, who's in charge of that, who's in charge of taking payments, and
I mean, I don't see any harm in running the RFP now. I just wouldn't want to commit to anything until the microgrid actually starts to go up, in terms of actually signing a contract for the upkeep and the work and the financing for it, until the grid is in. Because I think with the current atmosphere around all of that, there's delays that pop up once a month, and different tax breaks and financing that comes and goes. So I would rather, my take on it would be to make sure that it's in and under construction before we overextend ourselves and ask for the maintenance portion of it. We don't even have the item yet.
okay, so
I would
a
think.
little too early.
Yeah, I would think 6 months we can start looking at the RFP, and then a year we can probably look at the actual contract. I would think,
Wow.
because they're probably going to be, their construction phase is going to be, I would think, about a year once they get going.
They wanted to, I don't know if this is still the case, originally they wanted to start with the solar canopies.
Okay,
I don't know if that's still their plan.
gotcha.
Well, if that's the case, then they're gonna get that portion done. That might be
Yeah.
about the time.
Yeah, so maybe we should get back to them and ask,
Yeah.
and then also kind of see where things are with
Yeah.
the whole project. Because they
Yeah.
wanted to have it, a good portion of it done by October.
Yeah, I would. One thing that you learn in the construction industry is that everything's always going to be more expensive than you hoped, and it's always going to take longer than you hoped.
And this one in particular had so many moving parts
Yes.
that, I mean, it's so much later than I expected, so much.
Yeah, and then they are going to have to, I do expect them to try and go really quick here all
Once
of a
it's-
sudden, because the stuff has to be under construction before, what is it, like 6 months from now for the tax breaks.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah, because it's
So-
the end of, isn't it the end of the year?
See, I don't know off the top of my head.
And I don't know how much of their thing depends on that, because they have a lot of financing, private financing.
Yeah, I would think they're definitely a little bit dependent on it, maybe not all the
I
way.
don't know, and the grant that we got is from the state,
True,
so it's not federal.
okay,
Yeah, I don't know.
gotcha.
I think once it gets started, what will take longest is probably the ground mounts. The rest is
Yeah,
fairly.
because there will be earthwork, and
Yeah.
then they'll have to go through a sediment erosion control plan, which takes about 3 to 4 months to get approved with the state. And that's before you can even do any work,
Yeah, yeah.
so,
So maybe starting with the solar canopies and the roof mounts,
yeah.
because those, you just use a racking system.
Yeah,
so
the
it should
roof
be-
mounts won't be bad at all, but like the stuff at the Cary Farm, especially next to being near the streams, that'll be a long one.
Yeah.
And then the stuff at the water treatment plant, that'll be a little bit longer, because that's on a hillside. But
Yeah, even the one above FSU is on a hillside.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Alrighty, so I will reply to Laura, what's her name, and say we're gonna kind of wait until construction started before.
Perfect.
The only other thing I thought of, we have the regular council meeting next week on Tuesday, and then the following Tuesday, the 26th, it's already scheduled, but just so that, in case you don't look at your schedule like I do, do not look at my schedule. We have a special council meeting on the 26th, it's gonna be a closed session to talk about the opioid litigation, so just make sure that's on your calendar. Anything else?
Here's, Patrick's, you're sending out a calendar invite for that?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
It should be confirmed, but we haven't actually gotten confirmation back from the attorneys.
We tried to do it on the night we were having our regular council meeting anyway, but they asked to move it then because they're coming up here, they're gonna talk to us in Cumberland at the same time. So they're gonna meet with Cumberland, I think at 4 or 4:30, and then us at 6.
Yeah.
Anything else? Adjourn.